Hey everyone, I am going to try to record this the best I can. I'm using my phone and I'll most likely be uploading this from my phone. Um, so he can see himself because I've got the front camera on my phone so he can see, and so he might be a little bit distracting, so I apologize for that. So, I wanted to talk about what happened this past week. Because I feel like a lot of people are not enlightened about this or educated about this. And it's something I wish our pediatrician had discussed with us, or just kind of just educated us. And maybe had we been able to finish our baby classes, we may have learned about it. But I went through all the paperwork through the class that we ended up missing, which is a long story why we missed it. But so on Monday night, I began to get a cough, and you could probably tell my voice is a little bit gone. It's coming back, but so Monday night I started to get a little bit of a cough, and it was just kind of like a deep in my chest cough. It wasn't like, you get like a scratchy throat or something. So I knew something was weird going on. So Tuesday we were headed to my mom's house. We were spending the night there, and I was going to work with her on Wednesday because I work with her once a week, just for, money for groceries and whatnot. So we were headed down Tuesday, and I started to feel so bad. I had a terrible migraine. I had gone to bed the night before with a headache, thought I'd wake up with it gone. Headache was still there. It was turning into a migraine. I had a really bad cough at this point. I just was so exhausted. I kept falling asleep and couldn't seem to keep myself awake. And as the day kind of progressed, I started to get like body aches and just uncomfortable. My chest was just killing me from coughing and coughing and coughing. I slept most of the night at their house, just kind of kept waking up here and there and whatnot, and pretty much just felt like that for the rest of the night. Didn't eat much, didn't drink much for the day. So Wednesday when I woke up, my headache was gone, thank God. I had been taking some Robitussin to kind of help with the cough and, break up whatever was in there. So, I was good enough to go to work for a little bit, but I just told my mom, I was like, I just feel like crap. I need to go home. Landon was up all night long coughing, so I knew he was getting whatever it was that I had. And so by the time I got home around like 2 o'clock, well, back to her house at 2 o'clock, Landon felt really hot. I mean, he was so hot. So we took his temperature, and it was like 101. I was like, okay, well, we stopped by the store. As soon as we left, we got him some Tylenol and immediately gave him some medicine. And we live about an hour and 45 minutes away from where they live. So I figured by the time we get home, he might feel better, he might sleep it off, whatever. So we get home, and he was just kind of, not really playing, and, we could tell that he was starting to feel sick. He was still feeling really warm, and he was sleeping a lot. He took 3 naps that day, and, his fever was still showing 101, and I kept telling myself, maybe we should just take him to urgent care, because by that point, his pediatrician's office had closed. So I was like, maybe we should just take him to the kids' urgent care place. And I should have just taken the gut instinct then to take him. Granted, what happened could have happened anyways, but so we go to bed that night. We went to bed really late. He was, up, after his nap was just so late in the day, and he took so many naps, it was hard to get us, for us to get him back to sleep. So we put him to bed with us, because we knew he'd be up all night, and I just felt more comfortable having him in the bed with us. Thank God we did that. So he fell asleep pretty much immediately. sometime around 1:45 in the morning. We had only had about an hour and a half of sleep at this point because neither one of us could really fall asleep. And so 1:45 in the morning, he wakes up like coughing and kind of like choking. And my husband thought he was throwing up because before I put him to bed, he was kind of like coughing and like acted like he was going to throw up on me, and I was ready to kind of like catch it in my chest. So he jumped up out of bed, cut the bathroom light on, and at that point, Landon's eyes were just fixed straight. I mean, it was the most horrifying experience. I cannot stress enough like how just terrible it is to watch a child go through this. But he started having a seizure, and basically what happened was he had a febrile seizure. A febrile seizure is just, it's completely common. It's normal for kids between the age of 6 months to 6 years old to have seizures when their fever just spikes. And it's not when it just gets to a certain degree. It's not how high your temperature gets. It's when your temperature just jumps so fast. It causes them to have a seizure. From there, seizures turn into sometimes choking, biting the tongue. Sometimes they can't breathe. And then they, kind of like go into a sleep. They pass out, go unconscious, whatever. And then they kind of come back to. It's a freaky experience, let me tell you. It is the most sinking, gut-wrenching feeling you could ever feel when I'm sitting there watching him have a seizure. I didn't know at the time this is what's happening. He was shaking. It was like he was almost like cold, and not like he was having a seizure, and nothing was coming out of his mouth. His eyes were just fixed straight, and we could hear him trying to gasp for air, but he wasn't able to get any in. And so when he stopped shaking, my husband just grabbed him up, ran to the bathroom, and we're trying to get him to breathe, and he wasn't able to catch his breath. My husband thought he might have been choking on throw up. And so, excuse me, I'm like still having a hard time talking because I've lost my voice. So he tries to stick his finger in Landon's mouth to see if he could feel for any, something stuck in there. Well, Landon's mouth was clenched shut. I mean, it's what happens when someone has a seizure. Their whole body kind of just becomes tense and your jaw becomes shut. So that's why they say don't put anything in anybody's mouth when they're having a seizure. Fingers is okay, but, he really shouldn't have done that. So at that point, Landon's whole face was just turning red. His eyes were kind of just like almost bulging out, and he just was not able to breathe. And all of a sudden, he just, eyes shut, becomes limp. I'm on the phone with 911. I am just like screaming and crying because at that point, I thought he stopped breathing. We didn't know what was going on at this point. We didn't know that he had a febrile seizure and that this is normal and this is kind of just the progress that happens during the seizure. And so she's trying to calm me down. I'm trying to figure out what the crap's going on, give her the address to the house. And at that point, my husband ran to the front door. He was about to throw him in the cop car and fly to the hospital. So I went back in there. He was sitting on the floor in the laundry room by the side door with Landon in his arms. Landon was slumped over, and we could just hear like this gurgling like he was trying to breathe. He did stop breathing for a few seconds. But what we heard was just kind of like like he was literally like trying to catch his breath, trying to breathe. And she said every time he does that, let me know. I immediately called my mom while he was on the phone with 911, and I was freaking out to her. Like I said, at this point, we still didn't know what was going on. By the time I got off the phone with her, I went back in, and there were 2 deputies at the house. They were, talking to my husband and just trying to, my husband was calm, and I'm sure inside he was freaking out too, but I was the one freaking out. It's so hard in a moment like that when you just see your child looking lifeless and not breathing. It is so hard to stay calm. All the training that my husband's had with his job to keep people calm, and all the training I've had from working in a daycare, having to do CPR and, learn CPR and stuff. It's just, all of that completely leaves your mind in that moment because it's your child. It's totally different when it's your child. So, by the time the deputies had gotten there, Landon was slowly kind of like becoming more conscious, I guess. He was like kind of like looking around, like barely had his eyes open, was kind of just like confused, like what happened, because we had just been in the bed asleep and now we're in the laundry room with the lights on and there's 2 deputies standing in front of me. He's kind of like, what's going on? And he started crying and he was freaking out, and we were trying to keep him calm. And so finally, I went back, I got dressed because we knew we were going to the hospital. And EMS got there. They explained to us that, this is most likely just a febrile seizure, and it's completely common and it's freaky as crap, but, these things happen when a child's temperature just spikes so fast. Sorry, I'm like really losing my voice. So I rode with Landon in the ambulance to the hospital. My husband drove out there, and they pretty much said the same thing. His temperature was 103.5. So, excuse me. So by the time we, I guess, went to bed, his temperature was probably a lot higher. And then it just spiked to his fever was probably about 102 when we went to bed, which we had every intention of taking him to his pediatrician first thing in the morning. But we thought, okay, he's gonna, sleep it off a little bit, but temperature spikes at night, and I didn't even think about that. We were just trying to get him to feel better, and I felt like I was having a lot of regrets, a lot of like, oh, I should have done this, should have done that, but you know what, it is what it is. Like I said, it could have happened anyways. His fever could have spiked after we'd gone to the doctor and come back home. You never know. So, as soon as we got there, they went ahead and gave him Tylenol. He was due for Tylenol again. And they also gave him Motrin. So they just told us keep, switching back and forth between the two. And they just kept him there, kept checking his blood pressure, his heart rate, kept checking his temperature. You okay, baby? They also tested him for the flu, which came back positive. So we, of course, were having regrets that he didn't get the flu shot. It was just something we both decided that we didn't want to do. We didn't want to do the flu shot for him, and then we were kind of like, should we have done this? I feel like a bad parent now for denying the flu shot. And so he had an ear infection as well, something else that was just part of the flu. My ears had been bothering me when I was feeling at my worst. I never took my temperature or anything, so I could have had a temperature, but they were concerned for me because I am pregnant, and him having the flu, that I was sick first, so most likely I had the flu, which is dangerous to the unborn baby. So a few hours later, we left the hospital somewhere around 5, and we drove around pharmacy to pharmacy. Like, no pharmacy was open at 5:30 in the morning. Why are pharmacies not open? So we finally found a pharmacy that was open. We got Tamiflu for the flu. He also had amoxicillin for his ear infection. And then, of course, we're having to give him Tylenol and Motrin. And let me tell you, it's so hard giving a toddler medicine when they don't want to take medicine, especially when it tastes and smells like crap. So it was just a really, really long day for us. We only had about 4 hours total sleep. We were able to get a few hours of sleep when we got home from the hospital, and then Landon woke up for the day a few hours later. I mean, he just we all couldn't sleep, really. I mean, the sun was up by that point by the time we got home. So so his fever was still really warm. We were so frightened that he was going to have another seizure. I mean, it's always in the back of your mind. We couldn't go to sleep because we were like terrified of this happening again. We kept replaying it in our head, and it was just a horrifying experience, period. And I just felt like, had we been educated on what a febrile seizure is, when it happens, why it happens, what you can do during the seizure to help them, lay them on their side and I didn't know the seizure was happening. It was dark in the room anyways, but, you know, I've never seen a seizure. I've never been really taught, like, what to do. I mean, it's common sense to lay them on their side, but I didn't know all the rest of it that followed. It was just part of what happened. So if I had been educated to know, okay, well, after this, you know, he can go into the whole, you know, not being able to breathe, and he's going to pass out because his body is just so exhausted from what it just did. And had I known all that, put a cold rag on him to kind of like help, you know, get some of the hotness out of his body, we would have known what to do, and then we would have just drove to the hospital instead of waiting for 911 to get there. I mean, gosh, that took forever. So, all in all, that's basically what happened. He's doing better now. His fevers are gone. He's feeling back to normal playing and slowly getting his appetite back. I'm slowly getting my appetite back still. I still have a cough. Slowly trying to get my voice back because I've coughed for like 4 days now. And, you know, he's still got a cough. He's got a runny nose. And, you know, you just kind of feel nasty when you've got all that going on still. But thankfully, he's doing better. I got tested for the flu the next day. Well, no, it was the same night. My mom came and took me to the hospital because I couldn't get a hold of my OB, which is so frustrating. I started crying because I called 3 times that day to get a hold of them because they were, you know, concerned about me having the flu, and I told them that on the phone. And I called at 12 o'clock, called again at 3 o'clock, and then they closed for the day at 4:30. I'm like, seriously, I have not heard from my doctor. This is kind of a serious matter to me. You know, I care about my unborn child. So I called again right around 4:15 before they closed, and they still couldn't get a hold of my OB or her nurse. So they gave me another nurse, and she was just the sweetest person I've ever talked to on the phone. She was really helpful and just calm. She's just so calm. It made me feel better. And I was just crying, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, you don't sound okay." I'm like, you know, I was just frustrated. It had been a stressful night, stressful day. I didn't feel good, and I just wanted to know that my baby was going to be okay. So she went ahead and talked to the doctor, and the doctor agreed to prescribing me some Tamiflu to take because I had been exposed to my son. So my mom took me to like a late night doctor, and they ended up testing me for the flu anyways, and it came back negative, which, I mean, it had been a few days since I've been sick, so it could have just not had the germs there anymore. I don't know how that all works, but I'm just hoping that I really didn't have the flu and that the baby's fine. And I did check the heartbeat like several times on the Doppler just to make sure, because I was just so scared for this baby. And there was a heartbeat, and the little stinker was moving around so much I couldn't keep the heartbeat, you know. And then I'd hear like this little poof, poof, and I knew the baby was kicking where I had the Doppler pushed down into my stomach a little bit. I couldn't feel anything, but, you know, I could hear it on the Doppler, so. But anyways, that's kind of just what happened with us. Just wanted to enlighten you guys on what happened, and just to educate you guys on what a febrile seizure is and what happens and what you can do, because we had no idea. So I just wanted to educate you guys on what happens and what you can do and how to, you know, you can never expect this thing to happen. You can never be fully prepared, and you might forget completely in the moment what to do, but just to be educated and know that this is a possibility. And it happens, like, I think, like 1 in every 4 children or something like that. And like I said, I had a lot of people tell me that their kids dealt with it, or they know somebody that, you know, had several of them. And I'm sure it becomes a little bit easier because you become, you know, aware of what's going on, and you kind of know how to deal with it. But I just pray that we never have to experience it again. I mean, it was just so scary. I just cannot tell you. His whole life flashed before my eyes. We thought we were going to lose him. And when I saw him lifeless, not breathing, it just tore me to pieces. I mean, you guys, if you've been following me for the past couple of years, you know that it took us a while to get pregnant with him. And he's my whole world. I mean, he means everything to me. And just the thought of losing him is just heartbreaking. And I just feel like I I just feel like I have so much more appreciation for the little moments, you know, the day after this whole thing happened. Well, I guess I should say the morning after all this happened. He was sitting in my lap and just doing this, just rubbing my cheek, and that just meant so much to me. It seems so simple and silly, but just him sitting in my lap, rubbing my face, I can't imagine never having that moment again. I can't imagine never having a moment of him wanting to lay on my chest to go to sleep because mommy's the most comforting person to him, you know? It's just, the thought of just losing him was just, it just tore me to pieces. I mean, I cried the whole rest of the day. Just every time I thought about it, I cried and cried because I'm just so grateful that he's still here. Just so grateful that that's all that was. Still scary, still scared. I'm terrified for him to get another cold and another fever, but at least we know what to expect and what to do now. But anyways, I just wanted to tell you guys about that and just let you guys know what happened, and hopefully you guys never have to go through this, because it's seriously like the worst thing ever. I'm sure there's worse things that we could experience, but so far that is just the worst thing ever. But anyways, I will see you guys in my next video, and if you guys have any questions or, you know, anything that you just wanted to add, maybe like a story or something, feel free to comment, and I'd love to hear anybody else's, you know, experiences with it and what you guys do to stay calm if you go through this several times. But anyways, I'll see you guys in my next video. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.